What makes up the unique dignity man possesses, and which distinguishes him from the rest of creation? This is a question I will be answering using the thought of Pico Della Mirandola from his work on the dignity of man. In answering this question, it is necessary to discuss two things: the reality of man's own ascent or descent, and the divine role in this. First, let us discuss Mirandola's own thesis statement. In discussing the creation of man, Mirandola imagines that the Maker spoke to men thus: "We have given you, O Adam, no visage proper to yourself, nor endowment properly your own, in order that whatever place, whatever form, whatever gifts you may, with premeditation select, these same you may have and possess through your own judgment and decision." Therein is our question answered. Mirandola believes that the chief distinguishment bestowed on man, that renders him the highest honor of the created, is the ever-changing and unfixed nature of man, affected by his own choice and actions. Simply, the ability to ascend to the rank of angels, and the ability to descend unto the animal beasts. Mirandola does well to observe this reality. Before his imagined paraphrase of the divine, Mirandola recounts other reasons for a man's honor. With this as the foundation, I'd carefully argue that even in Eden, man's ascent and descent was the reality. Man was naked among the animals, grounded to the earth, flesh, and base, though without passion. But man also walked with Christ, spoke to God, was ruler over the earth, touched by the divine, and even had access to eternal life in God at the tree of life, the top of the divine mountain, as seen in Ezekiel chapter 28. However, here is also the advent of original sin. Man would not wait to receive from God the invitation of ascent, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but instead reached out himself to grab a hold of it. Adam said in his heart what was said by his sons at Babel, and what has been said ever since: "Come, let us build ourselves a city, with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a mate for ourselves. Otherwise we will be scattered over the face of the whole earth." Genesis 11:4. Quoting Mirandola again, "Even this, immersion in moral philosophy, however, will not be enough. If we wish to be the companions of the angels who traverse the ladder of Jacob, unless we are first instructed and rendered able to advance on that ladder duly, step by step, at no point to stray from it, and to complete the alternate ascensions and descents." Here we see clearly that Mirandola is working within this framework of divine ascent. Man from the beginning was an ascending and descending creature. However, man was always in need of receiving from God the grace of divine ascent. Adam needed to wait and receive the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and because of his pride, never reached by his own footsteps the summit of Eden where the tree of life was found. People of Babel could not cooperate once their tongues were confused. Icarus could not fly through the heat of the sun. Alexander was not permitted to ascend to the highest heavens. Sisyphus has never yet reached the top of the mountain. Solomon and his glory fell upon his own sword of lust. In all these examples we see the attempt of man by his own strength and his own will to ascend to heaven, and yet the impossibility of avoiding descent back to the depths of the earth. Mirandola sees this divine ascent. He truthfully and beautifully describes the reality of man himself being able to ascend and descend, to be spiritual and base. Man has this honor, for if he did not, then the reality of Christ would be impossible. This is the key. This is what I wish Mirandola would have honored and exalted in his work. The devil brought Christ to the highest summit of this world and offered him all things. But Christ did not fall in lust. Christ, the God-man, the Theanthropos, was taken from the garden, took up the tree of life to the top of the divine mountain. He planted himself there, and from his wounded heart flowed the water and blood of the rivers of living water. It is here where man is saved, and the divine ascent finally is accomplished. All that Mirandola writes on, every last bit concerning the ascent of man by gifts and talents and glories to the highest of heavens and the realms of angels, can only be done in man by union with Christ. And this concludes my essay about Pico Della Mirandola and his work on the dignity of man, and how this connects to the idea of the divine ascent and descent of man, and how this is all wrapped up finally in Jesus Christ himself. Thank you for listening, and may God grant you peace.